Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to change your bank account, you have to first change your belief system. Let me be clear. Money is not the root of wealth. Mindset is. Your external results are nothing but a reflection of your internal programming. That means if you're living in lack, you're likely thinking in lack. If you're stuck financially, it's not because of the economy, it's because of your philosophy. Self-focus is not selfish, it's strategic. That's a truth most people misunderstand. When you start to pay attention to your own path, your own growth, your own decisions, and your own alignment with purpose, you're not ignoring the world, you're preparing to serve it better. Too many people live reactive lives, giving their energy away to every distraction, every opinion, every unnecessary demand, and then wonder why they feel empty or unfulfilled. The reason is simple. They've been outsourcing their attention. They've been letting the external world dictate their internal direction. But when you truly focus on yourself, you begin to recognize that your time, energy, and intention are limited currencies. And the way you spend them will determine whether you live by design or by default. It's not selfish to set boundaries with people who waste your time. It's not selfish to say no to opportunities that don't align with your calling. It's not selfish to prioritize personal development over temporary pleasure. In fact, it's the most generous thing you can do. Because the more refined, focused, and disciplined you are, the more powerfully you can show up for others. Think of it this way. If your life is the engine, then focus is the oil. Without it, everything grinds down. Without it, even the strongest talents stall out. But with strategic focus on your own improvement, your own habits, your own mission, you gain clarity. And with clarity comes speed. Most people waste time comparing their journey to someone else's. They scroll through social media, measuring their value against curated highlights. They start copying strategies that were never meant for them. And instead of becoming the best version of themselves, they become a faded imitation of someone else. But when you focus on yourself, comparison loses its power. You're no longer concerned with keeping up, you're too busy leveling up. You stop chasing popularity and start cultivating purpose. You stop begging for attention and start commanding respect. Because purpose doesn't need applause, it needs alignment. Self-focus allows you to ask the hard questions. What are my strengths? What's holding me back? What do I really want to build? What habits are quietly robbing me of my potential? What would my life look like if I stopped blaming, stopped complaining, and started executing? These are the questions that birth transformation, and you can't answer them when your mind is cluttered with noise and distractions. That's why your ability to focus is the gateway to growth. Every goal you want to reach, every level you want to unlock, every dream you want to manifest, it all begins with intention. And intention is impossible without attention. People often think they don't have enough time, but the truth is they don't have enough focus. Time is constant. How you use it is what determines whether it compounds or decays. A person focused on themselves wakes up differently. They don't waste hours on empty entertainment or aimless conversations. They protect their peace, prioritize learning, and choose their environment. They're not chasing comfort, they're chasing capacity. And the more they stretch, the more they grow. When you stop giving your best energy to everyone and everything else and start pouring it back into your mind, your discipline, your goals, you'll begin to see what was always possible but hidden beneath distraction. Every breakthrough in life starts with internal alignment. You can't fix the outside if the inside is in chaos. Focusing on yourself is how you find your rhythm. It's how you create momentum. It's how you sharpen your vision so powerfully that mediocrity becomes unbearable. Because when you're truly focused on yourself, your standards rise. Your circle changes. Your schedule shifts. You don't settle for average, and you don't apologize for growing. You're not motivated by trends. You're driven by truth. And that truth is, you were never meant to blend in. You were designed to stand out. But you'll only stand out when you first tune in to yourself, your purpose, and the assignment on your life. Time is your most valuable, non-renewable resource. You can always make more money, build new relationships, start new projects, but you can never rewind time. Once it's gone forever. The challenge is that most people treat time like they have an unlimited supply. They waste hours every day on things that don't grow them, don't stretch them, don't serve their future. They get caught up in temporary pleasure and long-term regret. But success belongs to those who treat time like a treasure, not like something that can be casually spent, but like something that must be intentionally invested. Every second you live is a second you'll never get back. So the way you choose to use your time determines the quality and direction of your life. People don't fail because they lack potential. They fail because they misuse time. They put off learning, delay execution, and procrastinate on progress. They keep saying tomorrow like tomorrow is guaranteed, but tomorrow doesn't exist. All you really have is today, and how you use today will define whether you rise or whether you stay stuck. Time does not pause to see if you're ready. It keeps moving whether you're focused or distracted. The clock does not care about your excuses, and the calendar won't wait for your confidence to catch up. If you don't start taking ownership of your time, someone else will start using it for you. Employers, advertisers, social media, entertainment, they're all fighting for your time. If you don't know the value of a minute, someone who understands its worth will gladly take it from you. When you focus on yourself, you begin to see where your time is really going. You start measuring the return on your hours. Is what you're doing building your skills or breaking your momentum? Is this hour you're spending leading you closer to your goals or distracting you from them? Time tells the truth. If your life isn't changing, it's because your habits aren't changing. And if your habits aren't changing, it's because your time isn't being reallocated to what matters. You can't expect transformation while continuing to prioritize distraction. You can't keep feeding your comfort zone and wonder why you're not growing. Where your time flows, your future goes. Time management isn't about squeezing more into your schedule. It's about eliminating what doesn't belong there. It's about having the courage to say no to good things so you can say yes to the right things. Because every yes is a trade. When you say yes to gossip, you say no to growth. When you say yes to wasting hours on irrelevant content, you say no to developing your gifts. You're always making trades, whether you realize it or not. That's why you have to get intentional. Block time for your priorities. Guard your calendar like your destiny depends on it, because it does. There's a difference between being busy and being productive. Busy people fill their time. Productive people multiply it. Busy people react. Productive people plan. Busy people look active. Productive people move with purpose. And the key difference is this. Productive people understand time as a tool, not a trap. They don't work harder just to feel useful. They work smarter to be impactful. They don't do everything. They do what matters. Because the goal isn't just to be active, and effectiveness comes from focus. Focus turns time from a ticking clock into a powerful force for change. Your future self is watching how you use your time right now. You may not see the results yet, but every disciplined hour you put in is building something beneath the surface. Every focused day is setting a foundation. Every hour invested in growth is creating unseen momentum. You might feel like it's moving slow, but that's because real success takes time to compound, and only those who respect time will receive the full benefit of its reward. People often ask what separates high achievers from everyone else. It's not talent. It's not background. It's not even opportunity. It's their relationship with time. High achievers treat time like a business partner. They show up on time. They make time work for them. They squeeze value out of every moment. They don't just live each day, they lead it. Because they know that time is either your greatest asset or your biggest liability, depending on how you use it. Distraction is the enemy of destiny. It shows up quietly, disguised as entertainment, as curiosity, as urgency from someone else's agenda. It doesn't come loudly announcing that it's here to destroy your future. It creeps in as a notification, a text, a trending topic, a pointless argument, a meaningless task. And before you know it, you've given hours, days, even years of your life to things that have nothing to do with your purpose. Every minute spent focused on someone else's business is a minute stolen from building your own. Every time you shift your attention from your mission to something irrelevant, you rob yourself of momentum. The people who never reach their full potential are rarely destroyed by failure. They're dismantled by distraction. You can't fulfill your purpose when your attention is scattered. You can't build something meaningful when your focus is divided between too many directions. Distraction doesn't just delay your progress, it distorts your vision. It pulls you into comparison, causes you to chase what's popular instead of what's purposeful, and makes you reactive instead of intentional. And in a world full of noise, the ability to concentrate has become a superpower. If you can train your mind to lock in, block out the noise, and discipline your attention, you can achieve levels of success most people will never touch. Because focus is the filter that separates amateurs from masters. It's not about talent, it's about attention. Most people are not failing because they lack the ability. They're failing because they've handed over their attention to things that don't move them forward. They spend hours watching other people live their lives instead of mastering their own. They consume more than they create, react more than they reflect, and wonder why their life feels stagnant. The truth is, you can't rise while you're constantly being pulled down by distractions. You can't soar if your eyes are always sideways, looking at what others are doing. Progress requires presence. You have to be present with your vision, present with your habits, present with your time. They check boxes, run in circles, and exhaust themselves on tasks that don't lead to transformation. Just because you're active doesn't mean you're advancing. Movement is not progress if it's not moving you in the direction of your goals. You have to audit your activity. Ask yourself, what am I doing that looks important but isn't essential? What is stealing my time and offering no return? Where am I allowing distraction to wear the mask of urgency? Focus is a discipline, not a personality trait. It's something you train, something you cultivate, something you fight for daily. It requires saying no when everyone else says yes. It requires choosing silence when the world demands your attention. It requires understanding that just because something is available doesn't mean it's aligned. Every time you break your focus, you break a little piece of your momentum. And momentum is hard to build but easy to lose. That's why you have to guard it with intensity. Protect your attention like it's the gate to your future, because it is. Distraction thrives in a life without structure. When you don't have a clear vision, clear goals, or a clear plan, anything can become urgent. Everything feels important. And so you end up drifting instead of directing. But when your life is structured around purpose, distraction loses its power. You start waking up with intention. You start saying no without guilt. You start operating on principle instead of pressure. And as you become more focused, the volume of distraction gets turned down. The things that once captured your attention no longer compete for your energy. Your standard rises. Your habits evolve. Your results shift. Distraction also feeds on emotional instability. When your emotions run wild, distraction becomes a form of escape. You scroll to avoid, you binge to numb, you busy yourself to avoid confronting deeper truths. But emotional mastery strengthens focus. When you regulate your emotions, you regain control of your attention. You start responding instead of reacting. You start creating instead of consuming. You start focusing on your healing, your growth, your calling. And with that focus, you begin to build a life that isn't just impressive to others, but deeply fulfilling to you. Personal growth compounds over time. It doesn't happen in big, flashy moments, but in the quiet, consistent choices you make every single day. The problem is that most people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in a year. They want instant results, instant breakthroughs, instant success, but they're not willing to commit to the slow, disciplined grind that produces real transformation. Growth is not about grand gestures. It's about small habits practiced with excellence. Reading 10 pages a day may not seem like much, but over the course of a year, that's over 3,600 pages of wisdom. Working out for 30 minutes daily may not change your body in a week, but in a year, it will redefine your health. Speaking affirmations over your life every morning might feel repetitive, but with time, it rewires how you think and what you believe is possible. The secret to extraordinary results is found in ordinary routines done with intention. When you commit to growing just 1% better every day, you unlock the power of compounding. Small progress repeated consistently is more powerful than occasional bursts of effort. One moment of focus won't change your life, but a lifestyle of focus will. One day of discipline won't build your destiny, but daily discipline will. Growth works on a delayed return. You plant seeds in faith, water them with action, and trust the process even when you don't yet see the fruit. Most people quit because they're addicted to speed. They want the reward without the repetition. But lasting success requires patience, persistence, and faith in the process. Growth is also personal. It's not about doing what others are doing. It's about becoming who you were created to be. That's why you can't measure your progress by someone else's timeline. Your journey is unique. Your challenges are different. Your purpose has its own pace. Focus on your own development. Track your own habits, set your own standards. Comparison is the thief of joy and the enemy of growth. Every time you look sideways, you lose forward momentum. But when you stay focused on becoming the best version of yourself, you accelerate your progress. Because when growth becomes personal, it becomes powerful. Consistency beats intensity. Anyone can have a good day. What changes your life is having good habits. Anyone can be motivated for a moment. What transforms you is being committed when motivation fades. That's why personal growth demands structure. You need systems to support your progress, a plan to guide your actions, a routine that reinforces your values. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. If your daily actions are not aligned with your vision, then your vision will stay stuck in your imagination. But when your actions, habits, and environment all support your growth, you create unstoppable momentum. Another key to growth is self-awareness. You can't change what you won't confront. Growth requires brutal honesty. You have to ask the hard questions. What am I tolerating that I should be changing? What excuses am I using to stay stuck? Where am I playing small because I fear failure or judgment? Self-awareness is not about beating yourself up. It's about leveling up. It's about identifying the beliefs, habits, and behaviors that are limiting your potential, and once you see them, you can shift them. But you can't change what you're not willing to see. Growth is also uncomfortable. You have to stretch to rise. You have to let go of old versions of yourself. You have to be willing to face resistance, make sacrifices, and stay disciplined when no one is watching. Comfort and growth do not coexist. The people who grow the most are the ones who lean into discomfort, embrace the process, and show up regardless of how they feel. Emotion doesn't drive them, vision does. Feelings are temporary, but growth is permanent. Every time you push past what's easy, you expand what's possible. And the more you grow, the more you attract opportunities aligned with your future self. Growth shifts not only what you can do, but also who you become. Environment shapes outcome more than most people realize. You can have the right mindset, strong goals, and clear focus. But if your environment is filled with distractions, negativity, or mediocrity, your growth will be stunted. Your surroundings either support your success or sabotage it, and the most dangerous environments aren't always toxic, they're just comfortable. Comfort kills ambition slowly. It convinces you to settle, to slow down, to stay in places that no longer serve your vision. Growth requires being in an environment that stretches you, challenges you, and holds you accountable to higher standards. That might mean changing your circle, redesigning your space, or restructuring your routine. Many people remain stuck, not because they lack ability, but because they refuse to leave environments that no longer match their potential. They're loyal to familiarity instead of faithful to their future. But comfort zones become cages when you stay in them too long. You begin to shrink your dreams to fit your surroundings instead of expanding your surroundings to fit your dreams. And that's how greatness is quietly buried under the soil of stagnation. Your environment is either feeding your fire or putting it out. You can't soar when you're surrounded by people who are content to crawl. You can't grow when you're constantly absorbing opinions, attitudes, and habits that don't align with where you're going. There's no progress without pruning. You have to be willing to subtract to multiply. That might mean spending less time with people who drain your energy. It might mean limiting exposure to social media that fills your mind with noise and comparison. It might mean removing clutter from your physical space so your mind can breathe and your ideas can flow. Every environment tells your brain what to focus on. If your space is chaotic, your thinking will be fragmented. If your schedule is overloaded, your creativity will be buried under urgency. But if your environment is designed for clarity, your mind begins to operate at a higher level. You start thinking more strategically, acting more intentionally, and living more powerfully. The people you surround yourself with shape your standards. If everyone around you makes excuses, mediocrity becomes normal. If everyone around you is disciplined, focused, and hungry for growth, excellence becomes your default. You rise or fall to the level of your circle. That's why you must choose people who reflect the future you want, not the past you left behind. You need people who challenge your thinking, hold you accountable, and remind you of your potential when you forget it yourself. Iron sharpens iron, but dull minds, dull dreams. Don't keep company with those who tolerate your limitations. Build with those who confront them. You also have to create an internal environment that supports your external vision. Your mind is a garden, and your thoughts are the seeds. What you meditate on becomes what you manifest. If your inner world is filled with fear, doubt, and self-sabotage, your outer world will reflect that. That's why affirmations, meditation, journaling, and other mindset practices aren't luxuries, they're necessities. You have to cultivate peace within to produce power without. Your external environment can only elevate you if your internal environment is aligned. The right environment accelerates everything. You start making better decisions because you're no longer fighting against resistance every step of the way. You're no longer trying to thrive in a place that was designed to keep you average. Instead, your surroundings become a catalyst, your energy increases, your focus sharpens, your habits become easier to sustain, and the best part is, once you experience the power of a growth-driven environment, you'll never again settle for anything that dilutes your drive. You'll become more selective with your time, your space, your company, and your conversations. Because you'll understand that who and what you allow around you is either helping you evolve or keeping you stuck exactly where you are. Discipline is the bridge between intention and transformation. Everyone wants results, but few are willing to show up consistently without applause, without validation, without quick wins. Discipline is the silent builder that works when motivation disappears. Motivation gets you started, but discipline keeps you going when the journey becomes mundane, when progress seems invisible, and when quitting feels easier than continuing. Most people wait for the right feeling before they take action, but successful people act regardless of how they feel. They've trained themselves to do what needs to be done, especially when they don't feel like doing it. That's what separates those who wish for growth from those who achieve it. Discipline is doing the work without needing to be watched. It's holding yourself accountable to the standard you set when the excitement wore off and reality set in. It's choosing structure over chaos, consistency over convenience, and principle over pleasure. Discipline means saying no to short-term pleasure to say yes to long-term reward. It's the willingness to delay gratification, to trust the process, and to keep promises you made to yourself even when no one else would know if you broke them. The truth is, you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your disciplines. What you do daily is more powerful than what you do occasionally. Every time you practice discipline, you strengthen your identity. You reinforce the belief that you are capable, consistent, and committed. That's why discipline doesn't just change your results, it changes your self-commune. And once your identity shifts, your behavior follows. When you start seeing yourself as someone who follows through, someone who respects their time, someone who prioritizes what matters, your actions start aligning with that belief. You stop negotiating with excuses and start executing your plan. You stop getting pulled by emotion and start being driven by mission. That internal shift is the foundation of lasting change. Discipline also builds resilience. When you train yourself to keep going when it's hard, you develop mental toughness. You become the type of person who doesn't fold under pressure, who doesn't crumble when plans fall apart, who doesn't retreat when the road gets rocky. Discipline gives you the muscle to keep moving forward when others pause. When others pause, it's not about being perfect, it's about being persistent. Even when progress is slow, even when results are invisible, even when no one is cheering, you keep showing up. Because discipline teaches you to value process over performance and purpose over popularity. You'll never regret being disciplined, but you'll always regret being inconsistent. Inconsistency is the thief of confidence. It trains your mind to expect failure, to doubt your word, to accept average. But every disciplined day builds trust with yourself. You begin to believe in your capacity, in your commitment, in your future. That belief becomes fuel. And as you stay consistent, what once felt hard becomes normal. What once was effort becomes habit. And that's when the breakthrough happens. Not in the big moments, but in the repeated small decisions to stay the course. The truth is, discipline makes life simpler. It eliminates the need for willpower in the moment because your decisions have already been made in advance. You don't wake up and decide whether to work on your goals. You've already decided. You don't wrestle with excuses. You've already removed them. Discipline gives you clarity, frees up mental energy, and creates a rhythm for success. While others are debating, distracted, or doubting, you're doing the work. And over time, that consistent work compounds into momentum, into mastery, into a completely different life. Discipline is the great equalizer. You don't need to be the smartest, the fastest, or the most talented if you're the most disciplined. Talent may give you a head start, but discipline determines how far you go. Because discipline keeps showing up when talent gets tired. It keeps building when excitement wears off. It keeps pushing when the results are still hidden. The people who win long-term are those who've mastered their routines, who've taken control of their habits, who've built a life around what they want most instead of settling for what's easy in the moment.